Story 1. I don't like the person I can't remember that I am when I drink. Plus, alcoholism runs on both sides of my family, and it feels good to break the cycle. Thank you for the awards and kind words. I hit 1 year sober on the 6th of next month, and I never in a million years would have thought I could have achieved this. I know it sounds cliche, but if I could do it, anybody out there who is still struggling can do it too. Story 2. I had 5 driving while intoxicated charges, and the last one was a blood alcohol concentration of 0.326. On a Harley Davidson with a gun that was loaded, I resisted arrest violently. The legal limit here is 0.08. There is nothing funny about 2 heavily armed, well-trained men in a fistfight downtown, in a residential area. This did not make me stop drinking, but it was the same year that things got bad enough for me to stop. My little sister asked me, "Please stop." While I was in a 45-day stay in intensive care after a car crash I was a passenger in. Even then, when she stood over me while I was in a full body cast, it went like this: "Andrew, please stop." With tears in her eyes and mine, all I asked was why. She just said, "Because I love you." I never drank again. It's been 8 years. Not a drop. Never again. Story 3. I started when I was 14, alcohol and nicotine. It was the typical story, a need to fit in and, honestly, a fun time with friends. As the years progressed, it became a norm on weekends. College? Forget about it, parties every weekend. Game days at a big football school. Turned 21? $2 Tuesdays, wine Wednesdays, karaoke Wednesdays, and thirsty Thursday. Of course, we have to party on Friday and Saturday. It's the weekend. Sunday is game day, so of course we have to honor it. Well, I loved it. I met girls easier. I had a lot to do in my free time, so much so that I ignored all other obligations. My obligation was drinking. Right before COVID-19 hit, life took a turn fast. I got a call before the pandemic broke out. My dad was in the hospital. He's always been sick, so I moved home to take care of him. Pandemic. Taking care of my father as he goes in and out of the hospital every other month. My aunt at home gets lung cancer. I'm working full-time retail to help my family. At this point, I ditched school. Whatever, right? Life is changing fast and I have other priorities. Got a new relationship with an amazing girl. What didn't change was my drinking. I drank more honestly. Fast forward a few years to sum up. Dad and aunt get sicker, hospital trips more frequent. Working full-time, and the pandemic is basically over, so I go back to school, so alcohol galore. Relationship is getting strained. I continue to drink and then proceed to black out 3 to 4 times a week. Relationship ruined. All my money my family needed drank up. School abandoned. Health depressed and anxious, still blacking out. Father passed away in my kitchen with me having to do CPR and failing, even though I just got certified. And getting weaker. That was the last few years, with my dad passing last year. This 2024, full of drinking and terrible mental health, and going broke and making more problems, pushing people away, etc. This story is very abridged, and there's so much I could say about regret, shame, and my mental health overall. I'm 24 and see no future. I regret most of my past. That's abysmal. I have so many friends, and even in their presence, I just black out and cause problems. I can hardly look myself in the eyes. Today, I'm 30 days sober for the first time since 14. I couldn't keep up that life. It might be the shame and regret, or the desire for more, or the desire to not continue to let my mom down. I'm also going into nursing with a burning urge to save someone's life the way I couldn't save my dad's. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons for not drinking. I'm trying to unpack them and face myself now. Story 4. I just don't care for it. It makes my depression worse. Having a few drinks means I am going to feel emotionally bad for 2 or 3 days. So 2 days of feeling bad is just not worth a few drinks. Story 5. Yesterday was the 28th anniversary of my last drink. I wouldn't say that I officially had a drinking problem, but I was laying a good foundation for one. I have poor impulse control at the best of times, and it drops to 0 when I am drinking. Basically, once I start, I don't know when to stop. I was dating a pretty special girl at the time. I was at my work Christmas party, and she couldn't make it. I decided that I was going to get plastered and have a good time without her. I went up to the bar and ordered a rye and coke. I took one sip of it and looked up at the mirror behind the bar. As I looked at my reflection, a voice in my head said, "If you continue down this path, you'll lose her." I grew up with an alcoholic father, and I saw how it destroyed my family. I didn't want to do that to her. I pushed the drink back to the bartender and asked for a Coke instead. I haven't had a drop of alcohol since. By the way, we celebrate our 27th anniversary next year. Story 6. I do not like the smell, the taste, what it does to the body, the way people act when they are intoxicated, and so on. I also do not see any reason to waste money on it, especially considering I have no interest in it. I would rather take care of my health, and I can have fun without it. Story 7. I hit my boyfriend before I got sober. He was the sweetest person, and I evoked emotion from him to a point where it evolved into a panic attack I had never seen. I will have 2 years, second attempt, after relapsing during COVID-19 on the 30th. I keep my sobriety as a way to always remember the violence I am capable of, and also, I do it as a way to truly apologize to him. It is possible, you just need a community. Story 8. Dehydrates my skin so badly. I have eczema and I need a proper skin diet, eating foods full of nutrients like salmon, berries, avocado, dark greens, water, and so on. I drink only at weddings or big parties, and that's about it. I hate the way I feel the next day. I figure 5 to 7 times a year I can survive. Story 9. I drank plenty in my 20s, did the whole party phase, and just got over it. It doesn't entice me anymore. Every time I have a drink now, I just get sleepy. Story 10. I'm curious about this. I live in an area where tourism is based on wine and craft beer. A lot of the local breweries and wineries are putting out non-alcoholic drinks for the sober curious or just sober. Do sober people think it's worth their investment? Like, would you travel to wine country and spend a bunch of money to stay at a resort if they offered non-alcoholic options? Think Napa. Story 11. I got sick of being hungover all the time. It was starting to cause problems in my life, so I gave it up for good about a year and a half ago. I do not miss it at all. Story 12. Punk rock, straight edge, and it stuck. Plus, my dad was an alcoholic, and it led to him committing suicide. My oldest sister was a recovering alcoholic but relapsed after my dad killed himself. She's been on and off the wagon since, but I have not spoken to her in over 10 years. Story 13. Dad never drank, thankfully, and Mom only on very rare occasions. So alcohol was never around. My grandfather told me when I turned 21 that if I never drank, he would give me $1,000. On my 21st birthday, I went to him looking for the money. He said, "With all the money you save by not drinking, you should have the $1,000 by now. And do you feel like you missed out on anything?" Well, I can honestly say I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I still don't drink to this day. I can honestly say I would not be at the point I am in life if I had started. On track to retire early. Story 14. I don't drink alcohol because I'm all about clarity and being present. I'd rather stay sharp, make meaningful connections, and enjoy life without needing a buzz to feel good. Plus, no hangovers ever. Story 15. I am too much of a control freak to let myself feel altered. I do not even like taking my inhaler because it makes me feel speedy for the next hour. I have double the reason now too because my boyfriend is sober, and I do not ever want to tempt him. Story 16. Being buzzed is the best thing ever. So why not do it all the time? Oh, you don't have any breaks after a short while. I don't quit. But then it turned and it did. Story 17. My daughter's mother used to drink a lot when we were together. I didn't pick up on it as she was younger than me, but things slowly started getting out of hand. She got worse from postpartum depression and the responsibility of motherhood and even did things around our daughter like being blackout drunk in bed with our daughter right there. I tried to get her help, but she refused. I stopped buying alcohol for the house because I got it wholesale through work and felt responsible, like I caused or enabled her. Still, I would find empty mini bottles in her car or catch her sneaking alcohol in the kitchen. I filed for custody of our daughter, and she got into Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to her first meeting to support her, and it broke my heart to listen to her say she was an alcoholic, but she showed no emotion and was upset I came. That's when I knew it wasn't real, and she wasn't going to change. So I had to be the mature parent. Even though I didn't have a problem with alcohol, for the love of my daughter, I vowed to never drink again. Story 18. The negative health effects include, but are not limited to, headache, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue, dehydration, stumbling, dry mouth, dark urine, increased risk of cancer in the breast, colon, liver and esophagus, depression, anxiety, mood swings, insomnia, decreased fertility, increased risk of liver failure and memory loss. Story 19. I spent years covering up past traumas and post-traumatic stress disorder with alcohol, and it never got me anywhere good. It doesn't taste great or make me have any more fun than I have sober. Plus, I've seen family members drink throughout their entire lives, and it's just not a great look. To each their own, though. I have no issues with others drinking around me. Story 20. Father would make terrible decisions under the influence of alcohol, and seeing that as a kid made me distant from it. I've never been drunk in my life and never will be. Story 21. Dad was an alcoholic during my teen years. I saw him lose his job and a lot of other things. Long story short, I took part in Dry January to support his efforts in becoming sober and to prove to myself that I could stop if I wanted to. For me, a month turned into a year turned into 7 or 8 or more. I've lost count at this point. I stay sober because I have seen what it does to the people I love most. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. On the flip side, I'm now proud of my dad and how far he's come. He's done a lot of growing as a person. He's sober, runs the very Alcoholics Anonymous groups that helped him, has his job back and life together. The family dynamics aren't the same, largely due to his divorce, but we speak regularly and he sees my son. Can't ask for much more. It's not all sunshine and daisies, but we're doing all right. Story 22. I used to be a functional alcoholic who drank a fifth of vodka and a couple of beers daily. I was trapped in a prison. I knew I could die if I tried to stop drinking without medical intervention, but I was afraid of what my friends, family, and coworkers would think. My alcoholism took place behind closed doors. I was closeted about it as I lived alone. I would drink each day at home, hidden behind my closed door, to stave off the shakes and anxiety that would get progressively worse throughout the day. I'd feel a bit of relief, a bit of euphoria, then pass out and wake up feeling unwell again, only to repeat the daily cycle. I don't know what broke inside me, but sometime after Thanksgiving last year, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I hit my breaking point and informed my family of my alcoholism and intention to seek treatment. They urged me to discuss this with my employer, but I was terrified. One day in early December, I had a particularly hard day, anxious from the time I woke up, trembling beginning in the early afternoon, and I finally worked up the courage to disclose to human resources that I had a problem with alcohol and that I needed help. I left for treatment on December 11th, 2023, and haven't picked up a drink since, nor have I had the urge to. I can honestly say that every aspect of my life is better now that I am sober. I recently celebrated 1 year of sobriety and I couldn't be happier. If any part of my story hit home, or if you've been thinking about seeking help, I'd urge you to do so. You are not alone, and you do not have to suffer alone. There are people just like you who, with the help of others, became freed from the shackles of addiction, and you can be freed from it as well. Story 23. I've seen enough drunk people to know I don't want to be one of them. Plus, I like remembering what I did the night before. In all sincerity, it's just the taste for me. It isn't worth it. Story 24. I, like many other Asians, have an allergic reaction to it. Some others are fine, while some just get really red and hot. I get that flushed reaction, plus I feel really nauseous after about 1.5 shots. It's similar to being lactose intolerant. I'm deficient in an enzyme that metabolizes acetaldehyde, which is what alcohol is broken down into. All that acetaldehyde becomes really toxic for the body, leading to feeling unwell. Story 25. My grandfather was an alcoholic who got sober when my mom was in high school. The weekend before I left for college, we had a family dinner with my grandparents at their country club. When leaving, they had some reason why we needed to go back to their house, and my grandfather had me go in his antique car as a going-away treat. This was his excuse for us to have some time alone. We got to a stop sign and I looked over to see him crying. My grandfather didn't show emotion much beyond happiness and love. I'd never seen him angry or upset. When I asked if he was okay, he apologized to me. He said that because he is an alcoholic, I'm more likely to struggle with alcohol. He blamed himself for what could happen when I started to drink. It broke my heart. I wouldn't be the person I am today without him, and the realization that he saw himself as a burden in my life hurt my soul. I decided that day that I will never get drunk. I will never have more than 2 drinks in a night, and I will never be a daily drinker. That was 19 years ago, and I've kept that promise. He's been gone for over a decade, but I still think about him every day. I just hope that he is proud of me and he sees that having him as my grandfather is not a burden but a blessing. Story 26. I'm prone to acute pancreatitis that morphine can barely alleviate. It's the result of years in an extremely abusive relationship where alcohol was used as a remedy, an emotional lubricant, a vehicle for control, a reason to be thrown around and insulted, a way to always be discredited. I drank before then, but it became obsessive, mostly by his influence and often because I didn't want to feel anything anymore. My body physically ached from the stress. My soul and sense of self extinguished like an errant flame for somehow being offensive and wretched every moment of the day. It became a crutch, but it was also a stick to be beaten with. I still drink very occasionally, but very carefully, and only in safe situations around emotionally stable people that I trust like family.